Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today let's discuss the frequently asked interview questions on HTML, CSS and JavaScript. Okay, so let's jump into the interview questions. The first set of interview questions we are going to discuss is on the HTML. What is the difference between HTML4 and HTML5? Or if there are any latest version, they might ask you to explain the difference between them. Explain semantic tags and why they matter. Difference between div tag and span tag. What are block versus inline elements? What is the purpose of alt attribute in images? Explain forms in HTML and different input types. What is local storage versus session storage? Difference between ID versus class. What is iframe and when should you avoid it? Okay. What is meta tag and why is it important? How does browser rendering work? What are SEO best practices in HTML? What is accessibility? What is the difference between differ and versus async in script tags? What happens when HTML is invalid? How do you optimize a web page for faster loading? How do you handle accessibility in HTML? How do you structure HTML for a large scale applications? Now let's jump into the important CSS interview questions. Difference between inline, internal, external CSS. What is box model? What's the difference between margin versus padding? What is display property? What's the difference between class versus ID selectors? What is position? What is Z index? What is flexbox and when to use it? What is CSS grid? Difference between flexbox versus grid. Then what is specificity hierarchy? What are pseudo classes versus pseudo elements? What is responsive design? What is media query? What is CSS processor? What is critical rendering path? How do you optimize CSS for performance? How do you make a responsive UI? How do you fix CSS specificity issues? How do you handle cross-browser compatibility? Okay, now let's discuss the important JavaScript interview questions. Difference between var, let, and const. What is hoisting? What is closure? What is callback function? What's the difference between the given symbols? What is event publishing and capturing? What is DOM manipulation? What is this keyword? What are arrays versus job objects? And what is JSON? What is event loop? What are promises versus asynchronous or await? What is debouncing versus throttling? What is prototype and inheritance? What is call, apply, bind? What is memory leak in JavaScript? What is currying? What is deep versus shallow copy? What are the ES6 features? What is module system? Okay. Now next set of interview questions are based on coding. These are the interview questions that you must practice before the interview. Reverse a string with and without inbuilt functions. Find duplicates in a given array. Palindrome check. Fibonacci series. Remove duplicates from the given array. Flatten nested array. Implement debounce function. Sort array without inbuilt sort methods or functionalities. And find second largest method. Count characters in a given string. Okay, the next set of interview questions were mostly based on scenario based and twisted type. Page is loading slow. How will you optimize? Or what is your approach? UI breaks on mobile. How will you fix? Button click is not working. How do you debug the code? API call taking time. How will you handle? Memory leak in browser. How to identify? If there are multiple API calls, how to optimize? How do you handle cross-browser issues? How do you secure front-end data? What happens when JavaScript is disabled? How do you improve user experience? Why is JavaScript single threaded? How? does browser handles asynchronous operations? Can CSS block rendering? Why do we need frameworks like React? Difference between SPA versus MPA? And how does REST API integrate with front end? How do you handle state management? What is lazy loading? What is CDN and why to use it? And what is caching strategy? Okay, guys, answers for all these questions and for complete end-to-end company-wise interview questions for full stack front-end as well as back-end development rules, please find the link in the given description. And also make sure that you are explaining the real-time experience clearly to the interview while giving the explanation to the interviewer and not just theory. Try to make them understand practically. Okay, so all the best for your interview. Please do check out my videos and stay tuned for further updates. Thank you so much.